Apparently, it's actually happening. According to multiple reports, including highly respected insiders like Fabrizio Romano, Jose Mourinho is seriously considering a return to Real Madrid. Some football stories feel so unbelievable that your brain rejects them at first. You read the headline once and think, no way. Then you read it again, and somehow it still doesn't feel real. That's exactly how many fans reacted when rumors started spreading that the controversial Portuguese coach had become the leading candidate to take over Madrid once again. And honestly, the timing makes this even crazier. Reports coming out of the club describe a dressing room in complete chaos. Internal tensions are boiling over. Players are clashing. And even Federico Valverde is reportedly recovering at home after a training ground incident. Into that environment, Real Madrid may be about to throw Jose Mourinho, arguably one of the most explosive personalities in football history. According to Fabrizio Romano, direct communication between Mourinho and Real Madrid began in early May 2026. Sources close to the negotiations claim the chances of the deal happening are extremely high. Zidane was approached as well, but he reportedly chose to honor his commitment to the French national team instead. That left Mourinho as the main option. Spanish reports say Florentino Perez and Mourinho already held a private video meeting described as honest, direct, and productive. Mourinho allegedly demanded major influence over transfers and contract renewals, and Perez appears willing to accept those conditions. Internally, one of Mourinho's biggest supporters is José Ángel Sánchez, the club's powerful executive director, who believes the squad desperately needs a strong authority figure capable of restoring discipline immediately. A whole generation of younger football fans barely remembers Mourinho at his peak. Many only know the later version of him, the constantly fighting, endlessly controversial coach bouncing from club to club. In recent years, his biggest achievements were winning the Europa Conference League with Roma and reaching a Europa League final. Respectable? Yes. Elite-level dominance? Not exactly. But it's important not to forget who Jose Mourinho once was. This is the man who won the Champions League with Porto in 2004. One of the most astonishing achievements modern football has ever seen. Not Real Madrid. Not Barcelona. Porto. Winning Europe's biggest competition with a club of that stature feels almost impossible even in Football Manager. Imagine a modern-day PSV suddenly conquering Europe. That's the scale of what Mourinho accomplished. And that was only the beginning. He arrived at Chelsea and immediately introduced himself as the special one. Most coaches would have been mocked for such arrogance. Mourinho was different because he backed every word with results. He delivered back-to-back Premier League titles, something Chelsea hadn't achieved in half a century. During the 2004-05 season, Chelsea conceded only 15 goals in 38 league matches. 15. Peter Cech's goal was practically untouchable. Even legendary teams like Arsenal's Invincibles or Guardiola's Manchester City never matched that defensive dominance. Then came Inter Milan. In 2010, Mourinho led them to a historic treble: Serie A, Coppa Italia, and the Champions League. He became one of the few managers in football history to win Europe's top competition with two different clubs. After eliminating Guardiola's Barcelona in one of the most iconic semi-finals ever, Mourinho ran across the Camp Nou pitch with his arms raised toward the Inter supporters, a moment forever etched into football history. A year later, he arrived at Real Madrid. His first season began disastrously. Barcelona humiliated Madrid 5-0 at Camp Nou, and criticism exploded from every direction. Fans, journalists, even Perez himself publicly showed frustration. But Mourinho responded in classic Mourinho fashion. "I'd rather lose one match 5-0 than lose 5 matches 1-0. That mentality defined him. The following season changed everything. Real Madrid collected 100 points in La Liga, a historic record. They scored 121 goals, won 32 matches, and completely shattered Barcelona's dominance. Mourinho's Madrid wasn't just successful, it was ruthless. Across 3 league seasons, his side won nearly 72% of their matches, making him statistically one of the most successful managers in the club's history. And yet, alongside the brilliance came the chaos. Mourinho turned El Clásico into psychological warfare. Every confrontation with Barcelona felt like a battle rather than a football match. Tensions escalated constantly. In the 2011 Spanish Super Cup, Mourinho famously poked Tito Vilanova in the eye during a sideline altercation, an incident still replayed whenever football scandals are discussed. His relationship with Iker Casillas eventually collapsed as well. The captain and manager reportedly stopped speaking entirely, and Casillas was eventually benched. By Mourinho's 3rd season, the dressing room had fractured into opposing camps. Some players backed Mourinho. Others sided with the captain. Communication inside the squad reportedly broke down completely. And this pattern followed Mourinho throughout the rest of his career. At Manchester United, he won the Europa League, but left behind a toxic atmosphere filled with public feuds involving Pogba, Luke Shaw, Martial, and Schweinsteiger. At Tottenham, he was fired just before a cup final and openly criticized the club afterward. At Roma, despite winning the Conference League, he clashed with players, owners, and journalists almost constantly. Then came Turkey, where his time at Fenerbahce produced more headlines than trophies. That's the contradiction of Mourinho. He is both a tactical genius and a walking storm. People often oversimplify his football by calling it parking the bus, but that completely ignores the sophistication of his best teams. Mourinho's greatest sides attacked with terrifying speed and efficiency. His philosophy wasn't simply defensive football, it was controlled football. Defend first, then strike vertically and brutally on transitions. His Madrid with Ronaldo, Ozil, and Di Maria was one of the deadliest counter-attacking machines football has ever seen. But Mourinho's true power has always been psychological. He creates pressure intentionally. He manipulates narratives. He redirects attention away from players and toward himself. Former Chelsea midfielder Frank Lampard once explained that Mourinho had an incredible ability to transfer confidence directly into his squad. Nothing he does is accidental. Every statement, every controversy, every conflict serves a purpose. The problem is that modern football has evolved. The Mourinho who conquered Europe belonged to a different era. Today's game revolves around intense pressing, fluid positional play, constant movement, and rapid transitions. Compare modern elite sides like Luis Enrique's PSG to Mourinho's recent teams, and the difference feels enormous. Even former Real Madrid legend Guti recently said, "I think Mourinho's peak belongs to the past." That may be harsh, but many believe it's true. Still, there's another side to the story. Since his second Chelsea spell, Mourinho has rarely received a fully stable project. Manchester United's recruitment was chaotic. Tottenham lacked elite structure. Roma had financial limitations. Turkey offered aging squads with inconsistent professionalism. Benfica gave him only a short-term opportunity. Maybe, under the right conditions, Mourinho still has one final masterpiece left. That's likely what Florentino Perez is gambling on. Real Madrid desperately needs discipline. Reports suggest the squad has become fragmented, with players openly challenging authority. Tensions between stars have escalated, and recent coaching changes only made things worse. In that environment, Mourinho represents control, authority, and fear. Qualities many believe the dressing room currently lacks. But history also gives a warning. Mourinho has never stayed at one club longer than 3 full seasons. Not once. Chelsea, Inter, Madrid, United. The cycle always repeats itself. The first years bring intensity, unity, and results. Eventually, the pressure becomes too heavy, relationships collapse, and the project burns out from within. That's why a Mourinho return feels both exciting and dangerous. If it works, Real Madrid could rediscover its identity and competitive edge almost instantly. If it fails, the consequences could be catastrophic. a divided dressing room, damaged relationships, and possibly the end of Florentino Perez's era itself. One thing, however, is guaranteed. With Jose Mourinho, football is never boring.